Okay, so today I'm going to teach you about the 91 talismans there are in Elden Ring. This will include what they do, where to get them, as well as some interesting and borderline overpowered synergies that you can run yourself. Let's get straight to it. Starting with what is one of the most important talismans in the game, without a doubt, the Crimson Amber Medallion. There are three versions of it. First, the base version raises your max HP by 6%, and it can be bought from this nomadic merchant right here in the Weeping Peninsula for the absolutely ridiculous cost of 1500 runes. Don't you dare try calling me a cheapskate. But then the +1 version raises your HP by 7%, and you will need to head to Volcano Manor and reach the Prison Town Church side of Grace. And once you are here, go out this door. Once you are outside, go to the right. And you are going to want to hop on these roofs. And then once you reach this roof and you have this view of the Stone Sword Key door, all you need to do is go over to it, open it, go up the stairs, and you will find it on a corpse. And finally, the +2 version increases your HP by 8%. And a spoiler alert for this talisman, you can only access it after you burn the Erdtree and turn Lindell to ash. But once you are here, head southwest until you come across this open sewer grate. Go ahead and drop down here until you land on a wooden beam, and you should see a corpse with the talisman on it. And the reason why I'm saying that this is one of the most important talismans in the game is because in Elden Ring, your HP, your vigor stat, really matters. If you want to play through the PvE and not get 1 or 2 shot by everything, or if you want to do PvP and not get 1 or 2 shot by everything, you should probably get your vigor up to 50 to 60 and have this talisman on. Having high HP in this game makes it so much more enjoyable. Now, when it comes to restoring health in this game, the main way that you do it is your red flasks. And as you go through the game, you'll find golden seeds, so you get more health flask charges, and you can increase the amount of health that you get back from your red flasks through the use of sacred tears. However, there is another way that you can do this, and it is through the use of the Crimson Seed Talisman, which makes it so you get 20% more health back from red flasks. To get it, you will need to reach Sainted Hero's Grave in Altus Plateau, and in the very first room there is a Stone Sword Key door that you can unlock. Go in here, defeat the enemy, and the talisman will be on this body. Next, we have the Blessed Dew Talisman, which restores 2 HP per second. So as you can see, I've taken a little bit of damage, but if I were to equip this talisman, I would slowly but surely regen HP. Now, this talisman is found west of the Divine Bridge side of Grace. However, getting to the Divine Bridge is kind of weird. You can actually get there very early if you make your way to the Tombsward side of Grace in the Weeping Peninsula. And then from here, go ahead and mark on your map this location. You can see that my marker is on this tower with the ballista on top of it. Watch out for all the very aggressive enemies, but all you got to do is climb to the top of the tower, take out this guy, and if you open this chest, it is actually a trap that will take you to the Divine Bridge. Once you are here, head west, watch out for this golem, and in this chest you will get the Blessed Dew Talisman. The Cerulean Amber Medallion increases your max FP. In case any of you guys are brand new, that is the blue bar that you use for skills and spells. Just like with the Crimson Amber Medallion, there are 3 variations. The base version increases your FP by 7%, and you can get this decently early in the game. All you gotta do is head to Liurnia, go to Lakeside Crystal Cave, and defeat the Bloodhound Night boss that is at the end. The +1 version raises your max FP by 9%, and it is found on a corpse above the southern walls of Castle Sol. If you explore the castle, you will reach the site of Grace that is called the Church of the Eclipse. Once you are at this site of Grace, head south through the chapel, then east out the door, south once again, and you should find this ladder. There will be a couple crossbowmen trying to shoot you. Keep heading west as far as you can until you reach this area with this Banished Knight. I honestly wouldn't even recommend fighting him. I would just run past him, grab the talisman, and get the hell out of here. Oh shit. Then the Cerulean Amber Medallion +2 will increase your FP by 11%. And to get this one, you will need to finish Ranni's quest, so you can reach the Cathedral of Manicelis and the Moonlight Altar. From here, head straight east until you reach the Lunar Estate Ruins. And at this exact location, you will find this imp statue. Go ahead and use a stone sword key, and you will unlock the secret area. Open this chest, and the talisman is yours. The Cerulean Seed Talisman will boost your FP restoration from blue flasks by 20%. It is found within the Carrion Study Hall in Liurnia. Just to go to the eastern Liurnia Lake shore, follow this road down, and you'll find it. However, to actually access the tower itself, you will need the Carrion Inverted Statue, which is a reward that you get from Ranni during her quest line. The Viridian Amber Medallion increases your max stamina. The base version increases it by 11%, and it drops from Miranda the Blighted Bloom, who is the boss in Tombsward Cave. Then for the +1 version, that increases your max stamina by 13%. Around this section of the outer wall of Lindell, Margit will try to fight you again, and if you defeat him here, he will drop the talisman. Then for the +2 version, that increases your max stamina by 15%. You will need to reach the Haligdrake Town Plaza side of Grace, which is very, very, very late game. From the side of Grace, head southeast. You will see this Spirit Caller snail. Jump down once, head over here, jump across the gap, and then you're going to want to jump across here. I died. Jump across again. It is a pretty tight jump, so be careful. Just clear out all the mobs in this room. Then you will find this chest with the +2 Viridian Amber Medallion. Your health matters so much more than your stamina and your mind, maybe unless you're a glass cannon mage or something like that. Overall, I would worry about acquiring the Crimson Amber Medallion. These two, not so much. Moving on though, here we have the Green Turtle Talisman. And this talisman makes it so you recover 8 more stamina per second. And it is found in the underground area of Summon Water Village, which is being guarded by these 2 ferocious pit bulls. They will eat your children. The 3 arsenal charms are pretty basic. All they do is raise your maximum equipment load. The base one increases it by 15%, and it is given by Nefeli Lu at the Round Table Hold. Only after you find her in Stormvale Castle and exhaust her dialogue. Only then will she return to the Round Table Hold and you can get the talisman. The +1 version will increase your equipment load by 17%, and it is found right here in Altus Tunnel. However, I really wouldn't worry about this one that much, because the third one, the Great Jars Arsenal, is definitely an important talisman to go after. Not only does it increase your equipment load by 19%, which is going to be very useful later game, you also get it while unlocking the Caelid Coliseum, which is accessed through the Deep Siofra Well lift, which you do need to go underground to access. Once you are here, just keep heading west. There are going to be a couple archer golems that are going to try to kill you, and here you will come in contact with the Great Jar. He will have you do a challenge where you have to beat 3 different NPC duelists, and once you do that, you will get the talisman. Now, this next talisman is a bit of a combination of some of the talismans that we've seen already. This is the Erdtree's Favor, and it raises your maximum HP, stamina, and equip load. There is a base version, +1 version, and +2 version. The base version raises your HP by 3%, your stamina by 7%, and your equip load by 5%. And it is found right here in the Fringe Folk Heroes Grave. All you gotta do is go back to the Stranded Graveyard side of Grace, and you should see this Stone Sword Key door. And all you gotta do is avoid the traps and follow this path. And once you see the path kind of split right here, you can actually drop down to a secret area. There's going to be some imps. and a fire trap. Go straight past the fire trap, and if you look on the ceiling, you can see some grafted scions trying to sneak up on you. So watch out for them. But then you will find the Erdtree favor on this corpse. Jesus Christ. The +1 version raises your max HP by 3.5%, stamina by 8.5%, and your equipment load by 6.5. To get it, head to Lindell and reach the subterranean shunning grounds. And once you reach this side of Grace, you are very close to this boss room right here. And once you defeat the boss, you will be able to open that chest right there, which has the talisman in it. And for the +2 version, you need to have the Ashen Capital unlocked, except you need to take a different route into it. So instead of going here, go to the Forbidden Lands side of Grace. From the side of Grace, head southwest and take the lift. Then go out the western door, get on the lift, take it down, come out of the doorway, and now you are at the courtyard that you need to be at. As you can see, there's an ulcerated tree spirit who is not friendly. But if we take a look through my telescope here, the talisman is on that branch right there. This is another one of those talismans that is very, very important. And this talisman synergy right here is what I ran for a little bit in my early days of PvP. The Green Turtle Talisman isn't necessarily optimal, but no, the Great Jar's Arsenal, the Crimson Amber Medallion, and the Erdtree Favor are really talismans that you can't go wrong with using, especially if you want to use heavier armor. All right, now these next few talismans are maybe a little bit less optimal than the previous ones. Here we have Radagon's Scar Seal, which raises Vigor, Endurance, Strength, and Dexterity by 3, but it increases the damage that you take by 10%, and it is acquired after defeating the Ancient Hero of Zamor inside the Weeping Everjail, which is found right here on the Weeping Peninsula. Then you have the improved version, which is Radagon's Sore Seal, which is the same as Radagon's Scar Seal, except it boosts each of the stats by 5, and you take 15% more damage instead of 10. And it is found right here in Fort Feroth. Then you have Marika's Scar Seal, which raises your Mind, Intelligence, Faith, and Arcane by 3 points, but increases your damage taken by 10%. To get it, start underground at the Worshipper's Woods side of Grace. From there, just head south until you come across this broken pillar. Head up that broken pillar, and you will find this waygate. Just take the waygate. Once you do that, head northwest towards this Dragonkin soldier, and to the right of it, you should see a waterfall under an arch, and you will find the talisman right here. Then the Marika's Sore Seal raises those same stats by 5 and increases your damage taken by 15%, and it is found behind a sealed door in the Haligtree, so start at the prayer room side of Grace. Once you are here, head outside, and you will need to cross over to the bridge with the Erdtree avatar on it. So I would get on this railing, hop across here, go across the buttress, drop down, make sure not to fall off. Now you're gonna have to avoid this Erdtree avatar, which may be a little bit tough, but then go south. You can also pick up that somber ancient dragon smithing stone, drop down to the west, then drop down one more time, and you are at the sealed room with the talisman in it. And I'm going to be honest with you, I do not really like these talismans at all. I think they can be sort of useful at lower levels, but I mean, any talisman that is going to make you take more damage, I wouldn't really recommend it at all. Again, unless you are doing a glass cannon build, then I guess go crazy. Now, if you want talismans that boost your stats but don't make you take more damage, then these next 4 are for you. You have the Star Scourge Heirloom, which raises your strength by 5, and it is looted from a chest that is under a tent in Fort Gale. The Prosthesis Wearer Heirloom raises your dexterity by 5, which you do get after finishing Gowry's side quest, who can be found in Caelid at his shack. Then you return to Millicent and she will give it to you. And trust me, both Gowry and Millicent are gatekeeping very, very important talismans that we will get to later. But then the Stargazer Heirloom raises your intelligence by 5, and it is found at the top of the Divine Tower of Liurnia. And very close to it is the Two Fingers Heirloom, which raises your faith by 5, and that is found in the basement area of the Purified Ruins, which is southwest of the Liurnia Highway North side of Grace. And whenever your character is a low level, these are definitely useful talismans to meet the requirements of certain things. However, as you start leveling more and more, these will become obsolete. Now, before I get into the next category of talisman, allow me to tell you about my new and improved PC line from Apex Gaming PCs. The parts and the prices have only gotten better recently. You have low, medium, and high-end options that are all made with Nvidia's latest offerings. So if you want to play your favorite titles on a brand new gaming rig, you should definitely check these out. You can find the link to them down below in the description. And yeah, that's all I got. You guys are the best, and back to the video. Okay, now let's talk damage negation. For every type of damage in the game, there is a talisman that you can use to negate more of that damage. And as you can see for each of these talismans, they have multiple versions. The Dragoncrest Shield Talisman has 4 different versions, and it will boost your physical damage negation by 10%, 13%, 17%, or 20% based on what version you have. For the base version, you will find it on the lower cliffs of the Bestial Sanctum in Dragonbarrow. As you can see, there are routes that you can use to get down. Once you reach the bottom, just explore the area and you will find it. For the +1 version, you will need to return to Sainted Hero's Grave, and it is actually found behind a Stone Sword key door, but not the one that had the Crimson Seed Talisman. This one is deeper into the dungeon. The +2 version can be found right here in Farum Azula. Go to the Dragon Temple Lift side of Grace, and then make your way to this area of the map right here, and you should find the talisman. But then you have the 4th version, the Greatshield version, which is found in the Haligdrake. I'd say that the best side of Grace to go to is the Drainage Channel side of Grace. Once you're here, go out the eastern exit and then head north. Just keep going as far north as you can along these routes, and keep following the routes until you come across this building with the holes in the roof. You can drop down onto these beams, and then that chest right there is what has the talisman in it. Now, before I talk about the rest of these damage negation talismans, there is a catch. These will give you a very solid damage negation buff in PvE. However, in PvP, these talismans are absolutely nerfed into the ground. They are not worth using at all. If you really want to, you can go look at the numbers yourself. Like in PvP, you get a 1/4 of the buff that you get in PvE. So if you are going to use these talismans, do not, I repeat, do not use them in PvP. Moving on though, the Spelldrake Talisman will boost your magic damage negation by 13%, 17%, or 20% based on the version that you have. The base version drops from the Rune Bear boss at the end of Earthbore Cave, which is located in the Weeping Peninsula. The +1 version is in one of the sealed rooms here in Celia, which is located in the middle of Caelid. Well, I guess it would be the middle if you count the Wailing Dunes. But just like Ordina in the Consecrated Snowfield, there are going to be 3 torches that you need to light, and that is how you break the seals on the rooms. And finally, the +2 version is found in the hidden path to the Haligtree. You will notice as you're running through, there's this broken railing, and if you drop down, there are these invisible pathways that you can follow. Head north, then head towards the doorway to the west. Before you get to it, hop down over here, go through this window and clear the room, or you can just pull the lever if you're ballsy. Turn south and go down these stairs, and here you will see a boss door, but instead turn right, take this lift, and on this corpse right here, you will get the talisman. The Flamedrake Talisman is the same as the Spelldrake Talisman, except it's for fire damage negation. The base one is dropped by the Beastman of Farum Azula boss in Groveside Cave at the very beginning of the game. The +1 version can be found after you take the Grand Lift of Rold. And it's kind of funny, but the +2 version is actually dropped by another Beastman boss that is located in Dragonbarrow Cave. The Boltdrake Talisman, again, basically the same as the Flamedrake and the Spelldrake, except this one affects lightning damage negation. The base one is found right next to this side of Grace right here, which is the Limgrave Tower Bridge side of Grace. The +1 version is located in a shed inside of Old Altus Tunnel. And for the +2 version, go to the Dragon Temple rooftop side of Grace in Farum Azula, and you are going to want to follow this path. Once you reach this building, follow the path. Don't die. Just don't die. Go to this ladder. Climb up. Go to the lift that is right in front of you. Walk out, then go up here. You should come across a Beastman and a Crucible Knight fighting. You can choose to fight them, or you can ignore them. Climb up this ladder, and bada bing, bada boom. The talisman is yours. The Haligdrake Talisman is for holy damage negation. The base version is found under the Seaside Ruins side of Grace. Once you're here, you should see this wind stream. So go ahead and hop on Torrent and you can descend safely. Then head northwest, you'll reach this small cave opening, and the talisman will be right here. For the +1, go to the Longtail Catacombs side of Grace. Use this lift. Then come to this arch under the stairs. Break the illusory wall, and then go to the left, and you will find this Spirit Caller snail, who is also guarding the talisman. And the +2 is found at Mogwin Palace near a perched giant crow. And for the last of the damage negation talismans, we have the Pearldrake Talisman, which will slightly boost all elemental damage negation by 5%, 7%, or 9% depending on what version you have. For the base version, go to the 4 belfries and go to the lowest tower on the mountain. Then all you gotta do is use the imbued sword key on this statue. Go through this waygate and you will find it. The +1 version requires a normal stone sword key to access, and it is in the sealed off section of the Windham Ruins. Then for the +2, go to the Haligdrake Town side of Grace. Go out the door northwest, head towards the ladder. Go ahead and climb up, turn around, jump this gap, and you will see this corpse over here being guarded. And there you go. You have the Pearldrake Talisman +2. Now again, these damage negation talismans are cool in PvE. If you want to use them, go ahead. But do not use these things in PvP because it's basically wasting a talisman slot. However, as you are going to see with the resistance talismans, this is not the case. Every single one of these is going to boost your resistance to a different status effect, and they are equally effective in PvE and PvP. And every single one of these will also have 2 versions. First, we have the Immunizing Horn Charm, which raises your immunity. This is your resistance to poison and scarlet rot. The base version increases your immunity by 90, and it is found on a corpse within an ant nest in Ainsel River. And the +1 version is also found sort of within the same place. This is going to boost your immunity by 140. And it is a guaranteed drop from the Ancestral Follower that is southeast of the Lake of Rot shoreside side of Grace. The Stalwart Horn Charm is the same as the Immunizing Charm, except it is for boosting Robustness, and Robustness is your resistance to bleed and frost. For the base version, go to the Mausoleum Compound side of Grace. Head north a little ways from the side of Grace, then go west. Go to this large rock formation over here, wrap around it until you find this hole, drop down, walk over to this body, and if you haven't looted it already, it will be on this body. And the +1 is in the southwestern part of the consecrated snowfield. It is on a corpse that is being guarded by an ancestral follower and shaman. Then of course the clarifying horn charm raises your focus by either 90 or 140 depending on what version you have. And remember how for the Great Jars arsenal you had to take the lift up from the Deep Seofra well? Well, the base version of the clarifying horn charm is actually right underground. But then for the +1, go to the Ancestral Woods side of Grace. Go east and follow the brick path. Turn left at this cliff. Follow the edge. Drop down. Then drop down onto this ruin very carefully. Keep going down until you reach the lowest floor. And it will be found on this corpse right here. And if you want those 3 talismans rolled up into one, you have the Mottled Necklace, which will raise your immunity, robustness, and focus by 40 if it's the base version, which can be acquired after going through this waygate at the 4 belfries. Or the better version will raise all of them by 60, which can be looted from a body above the Hollowhorn grounds in Nokrin. And for the final resistance talisman, this is one of the most useless talismans in the entire game. The Prince of Death's Pustule will raise your vitality by 90, which is your resistance to Deathblight. Then you have the Prince of Death's Cyst, which is the exact same thing, except it increases your vitality by 140. And I don't know why you would want to use either of them, but I guess if you want the base version, it is just sitting on a body in Stormveil Castle's crypt. Then if you want to get the Cyst, it is dropped by a lesser rune bear that is located behind a waterfall near the Deeproot Depths side of Grace. There's not a lot of enemies that can proc Deathblight, and the ones that can aren't too bad to deal with. But no, these resistance talismans can come in handy in PvE and PvP. Just wait until you come across a sleep or madness build in PvP. You are going to wish you had the clarifying horn charm. And with all those out of the way, we can now move on to the attack enhancer talismans, which is what I am going to call this group of talismans right here. First, we have the Dagger Talisman, which will enhance critical hit damage by 17%. It is found at Volcano Manor. I would start out at the Temple of Igle side of Grace. From here, go to this doorway, go to this lift, go ahead and take the lift up, head straight northwest. Then go through this doorway to the north, then this doorway to the east. Go up the stairs to the right, then double back. Watch out for all the enemies, because there's quite a few. And here you have reached the Stone Sword Key door. You need 2 Stone Sword Keys to open it. Walk through, come right here, then drop down. Then walk through the door and go up the stairs. Keep going. There will be a little legless wizard guy here. Then you walk through this door, and the Dagger Talisman is right here. The Curved Sword Talisman enhances guard counterattack damage by 20%. So if you block an attack and then press heavy attack, you can do a guard counter. For all of you sword and board lovers out there, this talisman is going to come in handy. And if you want to get it, go to the Stormveil Cliffside side of Grace. Just follow the path that is ahead of you, and eventually you will reach a wine cellar. This wine cellar has multiple floors, so keep following the stairs until you get to the 3rd floor. Then in this room right here, there will be a Banished Knight and a chest with the talisman. The Twinblade Talisman will enhance the final hit of chain attacks by 45%. And it's funny that it's called the Twinblade Talisman because it's actually better on weapons that don't have a long, light attack string. And it is found near the Behind the Castle side of Grace at Castle Morn. Just to drop down here along the outer wall, all the way until you find this tower. Go ahead and take the ladder, head around here. And in this chest, you will find it, but of course, I have already looted it. The Axe Talisman will enhance charged attack damage by 10%, so this would be your heavy attacks. And it is located in the underground cellar of the Mistwood Ruins. And I think out of the attack enhancer talismans, this is definitely one of the better ones. The Hammer Talisman enhances stamina reducing attacks against blockers by 40%. However, if you want to break the guard of somebody who's using a shield, all you have to do is put your weapon away and kick them. If they try to block a kick, it will instantly break their guard. But if you want the Hammer Talisman, head north of the War Master's shack near the Limgrave Coliseum, and around here you should come across Recusant Henricus, who will drop the talisman. The Spear Talisman, which I do believe is the best out of this little group of talismans here, gives you a 15% damage boost to thrusting counterattacks. So let's say an enemy whiffed an attack on me, and then immediately after that, I come back with a thrusting attack. And this can be any thrusting attack, I will get that 15% damage increase. And it is found within a chest in a Lakeside Crystal Cave near some demi-humans. Then you have the Lance Talisman, which is probably the most useless one out of this entire category, and it increases the damage that you do on horseback by 15%. Hey, so if you like riding around on a horse and slaying enemies, then I guess this is the talisman for you, but there's really not a lot of situations that call for horseback combat. And you get it north of the Saint Bridge side of Grace at the very tip of the map. The Claw Talisman increases your jump attack damage by 15%, but this is only 7.5% in PvP, and it is found on top of a watchtower in Stormveil Castle. Once you reach the Rampart Tower side of Grace, walk out the northern door and then make this jump to the east. Go straight across this roof, up this beam, onto this ledge, wrap around, and then walk up to this ladder, climb it, Beware, because you are going to get pelted. But once you reach the top of the watchtower, you will find the talisman. The Greatshield Talisman reduces the amount of stamina damage you take from blocking attacks by 20%. Yet another talisman for all of you shield lovers. And if you go to the Erdtree Gazing Hill side of Grace in Altus Plateau, then head east, you will come across this carriage, and in the back is a chest with the talisman in it. The Arrow Sting Talisman will raise the attack power of arrows and bolts by 10%. And if you want to make your way to the Impassable Great Bridge in Caelid, hopefully you will notice this tower right next to the side of Grace. All you gotta do is climb it, and the talisman is in a chest. Then the Arrow's Reach Talisman increases the effective range of bows by 65%. That includes bows, crossbows, ballistas, and great bows. And it will also affect things like Rock Sling, Ambush Shard, Great Oracular Bubble, Beast Roar, Kukri, Spectral Lance, and even Bestial Sling. And if you want it, go to Stormhill Shack and then go southeast towards the Stormhill Everjail. And once you are at the Everjail, if you look to the northeast, you should see a tower. And if you clear out this tower, you should find the talisman in a chest. And I don't think that all of the attack enhancer talismans are super useful. It really does depend on your build, but things like the Lance Talisman and the Hammer Talisman, I just can't really see being used that often. But then you have things like the Spear Talisman, the Dagger Talisman, and even the Axe Talisman that are very useful. Next up, though, we have the talismans that have to do with incantations, sorceries, and spellcasting in general. So the Graven-School Talisman will raise the damage of your sorceries by 4%, and it is found right before the Debate Parlor side of Grace in Rea Lucaria. Normally, there is an empty bookshelf here, which is an illusory wall. You will gain access to this room with this ladder. Go ahead and climb up, head east, and then drop down through this hole, and then drop down one more time, and the Graven-School Talisman should be right here next to these crystals. Then the Graven Mass Talisman will boost the damage of your sorceries by 8%, and yes, you can stack these. You need to reach the Consecrated Snowfield and go right here on the map. This is called Albinauric Rise. Solve the puzzle here, and at the top of the tower, you will find the talisman in a chest. So if you like spellcasting and you like sorceries specifically, I would make sure to get both of these in your playthrough. And for all of you based faith users out there wondering, wait, is there a talisman that can buff my incantations? Yes, there is. You have the Faithful's Canvas Talisman and the Flock's Canvas Talisman. And these are literally the exact same as these two talismans, except it's for incantations. Same percentage buff, you can still stack them, all that good stuff. So for the 4% one, the Faithful Canvas Talisman, you are going to have to get it right here in Celia Crystal Tunnel. You will find it being guarded by two Kindred of Rot. And I did tell you guys earlier that Gallery and Millicent kind of gatekeep a lot of the talismans in this game, especially the good ones. And the Flock's Canvas Talisman, which is the 8% one, is no exception. So it will drop from Gallery if you kill Millicent, then kill him, or you can finish Millicent's quest, which I would highly recommend, considering there are still more talismans that are a part of their quest line, and then return to Gallery to get it afterwards, who again is right here in Caelid. Then you got the Primal Glintstone Blade, which is a talisman you will probably never see anybody use ever. Reduces the FP cost of spells by 25%, but reduces your max HP by 15%. You have to go right here to the Stargazer Ruins in the mountaintops. There will be a jellyfish NPC that you need to talk to, and she will say that she's looking for her sister, and that is when you whip out your handy dandy spirit jellyfish ashes and summon her sister. She will then break the seal to the underground area where the chest is that has the Primal Glintstone Blade. But for real, anything that reduces your maximum HP or makes you take more damage is not going to be that useful. I mean, again, if you're going to be spamming a lot of spells, you know, you're a pure mage, this could come in handy. I don't know though, health is way too important to me. The Moon of Noxtella increases your spell memory by 2, which if you have gathered all the memory stones and you have this equipped, you should have 12 total slots. it is definitely an important talisman to get, and you can get it once you reach Noxtella Eternal City. Literally, you just go through the city, and eventually you will reach the throne room right here, and you will find the Moon of Noxtella in a chest. The Old Lord's Talisman extends the duration of spells by 30%, and it is located here in Farum Azula, the closest site of grace being the beside the Great Bridge site of grace. From the grace, go up the stairs, but instead of going up towards this boss arena, you are going to want to go the opposite direction and go into this building. Then once you are out here on this balcony, there should be a ladder that you can climb down, or if you want to jump down, you can. And as you can see in this little cathedral gazebo building thing, there is a chest, and within that chest is the Old Lord's Talisman. However, you need to watch out for all the beastmen that are in there. Even I am too scared to walk in there. And then for the last of the spellcasting talismans, we have the Radagon Icon, and it shortens your spellcasting time, so it is useful for any mage. Once again, you are going to want to head to the debate parlor, and as you can see, there is a second floor to this room here. However, you have to go outside to the north and then cut directly east and jump off of this railing, go towards this ladder, go through this broken window, and the icon is in this chest. So if you are going to be a pure mage, decide if you want to go incantations or sorceries, intelligence or faith, then throw on the Graven Mass Talisman or the Phlox Canvas Talisman, and 100% throw on the Radagon Icon. The Old Lord's Talisman can be useful for buffs and stuff like that. The Primal Glintstone Blade, again, I don't like the HP reduction, but if you're sitting 100 yards away blasting people with comets, I mean, who cares about HP at that point? I think all of these talismans are useful, honestly. Moving on though, here we have one of my favorite talismans in the entire game, the Roar Medallion, which will boost the damage of roar attacks by 15% and breath attacks by 10%, except both of those are cut in half for PvP. So if you have something like Braggart's Roar, something that gives you enhanced heavy attacks, and you throw on the Roar Medallion as well as the Axe Talisman, your enhanced heavy attacks are going to be doing so much damage. And the Roar Medallion also stacks with the Highland Axe passive, which will also boost the damage of your roar attacks. And you can get the Roar Talisman as early as you want. Just come down here to Agheel Lake and then walk north to the Limgrave Tunnels. There will be a Stone Digger troll boss in these tunnels, and once you defeat it, you will get the talisman. The Companion Jar raises the damage of throwing pots by 20%. Honestly, I don't think it's really a talisman you would ever use unless you were doing a pure pot build, but if you want to get it, you will need to start and complete Jarbairn's quest line. Another talisman, though, that is in a similar vein is the Perfumer's Talisman, which raises the potency of damaging perfume arts by 20%, like the Spark Aromatic, for example. Again, I don't really know why you would use up a talisman slot for this, but it's in the game, and it is found in the underground area of the Perfumer's Ruins. And you can get your hands on another borderline useless talisman from this big guy right here. This is War Counselor E.G., and he will sell you the Carrion Filigreed Crest after progressing through Blide's quest line. And all this talisman does is it lowers the FP cost of skills by 25%. I think there's a very, very select few skills that I would even consider using this talisman for, and even then it's a stretch. I really do just think that this would be wasting a talisman slot. The Warrior Jar Shard is a bit more useful though, and it boosts the attack power of skills by 10%. This will drop from Iron Fist Alexander if you kill him without completing his quest line, which I really would not recommend, because then that prevents you from getting the better version of this talisman, the Shard of Alexander, which will boost the attack power of skills by 15%. And if it wasn't obvious enough, yes, to get this you have to complete Iron Fist Alexander's quest line. Trust me, it is 100% worth it. In fact, this is top 5 most important talismans in the entire game. Do not miss out on it. Then arguably a talisman of equal importance, and one that synergizes perfectly with the Shard of Alexander, we have the Godfrey Icon, which increases the attack power of chargeable spells and skills by 15%. So this is great if you are a mage or a melee fighter. To get it, go to the Grand Lift of Dectus on Altus Plateau, drop down to the cliffs behind it, follow the cliffs down east, and eventually you will reach the Golden Lineage Everjail. In this Everjail, you will get the talisman as it drops from Godfrey the Grafted. Now, do me a favor and try to keep these two talismans in the back of your mind. They are going to be a part of a very, very overpowered synergy that we're going to get to later. The Boltdrake Talisman will raise your poise by 33%. As you can see, my normal poise is 36. However, with this talisman on, it is 48. And poise used to matter a lot more than it does now. It used to be if you had like over 100 poise, you could basically tank anything in the game. But now your ability to tank stuff is more based on the weapon that you're using and not your passive poise. However, having high passive poise will still help you tank successive attacks. So if somebody's like spamming you with a thrusting sword, the first attack may stagger you, but then you'll be able to tank the successive ones. I don't know, it's kind of confusing, but the Boltdrake Talisman is useful, and you will find it on a corpse in the back of Dragon Barrow Cave. Now, of course, every yin has its yang. And if the Boltdrake Talisman is the yin, then the Blue Dancer Charm is the yang. Basically, with this talisman, the lower your equip weight is, the more of a damage multiplier you get. This will start at 30 equip load and increases the lower you go from that. So if you want to go full wretch mode and run around naked with a club, the Blue Dancer Charm is going to be spectacular. Also, why the fuck do I have so many duplicates of talismans? This is an issue. Anyways, next we have the 4 Scorpion Charms. All of the buff percentages that you get from these are the exact same. It's just the buff you get that's different. Starting with the Magic Scorpion Charm, this increases magic damage by 12%, but increases physical damage taken by 10%. In PvP, though, it only gives you an 8% magic damage buff, and you take 15% more physical damage. You get this one from Preceptor Celavis after giving him the Amber Starlight, which is found right here in Altus Plateau. The Fire Scorpion Charm is the same as the Magic Scorpion Charm, but it's for fire damage. It's not great in PvE, and it's even worse in PvP. This one is found in Fort Lade on Mount Gelmir, the closest site of grace being the Seathwater Terminus. The Lightning Scorpion Charm is, you guessed it, for a lightning damage buff, but again, it lowers your damage negation. This one is located behind a Stone Sword Key door in the Windam Catacombs. The fourth and final Scorpion Charm, the Sacred Scorpion Charm, of course, raises holy attack, but once again, lowers your damage negation. And this one is dropped from the Invader NPC Anastasia Tarnished Eater after defeating her for the first time in front of Smoldering Church. Now, if you want a talisman that can save your life in the scariest scenarios in this game, allow me to recommend the Crucible Scale Talisman, which reduces the amount of damage you take from critical hits by 30%. So if you manage to get parried and someone stabs you with a Misery Cord, what would normally one-shot you is not going to. However, I'm not sure that's going to happen often enough to justify using this talisman all the time. To get it, you will need to have access to the Lendel Catacombs site of grace. And as you go through this catacomb, eventually you will find this room over here with this Fire Imp column. Now make your way carefully over to this column. Go ahead and hit it so it goes down. Then jump on it, and in this room ahead is an Omen who is guarding an altar with the talisman on it. The Crucible Feather Talisman gives you 6 more iframes on your rolls, but you take 30% more damage. So this is a talisman where I really don't think it's worth it, but in case you do want to get it, it can be looted off of a corpse inside a Riza hero's grave. I mean, rolling with this talisman on does feel nice, but you are going to get chunked so hard by pretty much everything in the game, no matter what health you're at. You're definitely better off just doing normal medium roll. And I think that we all understand that the most annoying areas in Souls games are those very archer-dense areas where you don't have a lot of room to move. So you're getting shot in the back, you're getting shot in the face. I know it has gotten on my nerves plenty of times, but thankfully in this game, they actually included a talisman that reduces the damage and impact of headshots. So all of those pesky archers aren't going to be 3-tapping you in the head anymore. And all you gotta do to get it is defeat the Omen Killer mini-boss in the village of the Albinarix in southwest Liurnia. Next, we have 2 talismans that I think are really, really cool and I do enjoy using them sometimes. You have the Red Feathered Branch Sword, which will boost your attack power by 20% whenever your HP is below 20%. If you go northeast from the Scenic Isle side of Grace at nighttime, a Deathrite Bird boss will spawn, and once you defeat it, you will get this talisman. Then you have the Blue Feathered Branch Sword, which is acquired in a similar fashion, which reduces your damage taken by 50% when your HP is below 20%. And all you gotta do is come to the War Master's Shack at nighttime, head east, and you should come across a Deathrite Bird boss that will drop the talisman. Getting that extra attack boost or that defense boost whenever your HP is low can really win you some fights. There are just better talismans out there though. Now those last two talismans are for whenever your HP is low. However, these next two actually buff you whenever your HP is at maximum. The Ritual Sword Talisman will grant you 10% more attack power whenever your HP is full, and it is found here at the Lux Ruins in Altus Plateau. There is a boss under the ruins named Demi-Human Queen Gillica that you have to defeat in order to get access to the talisman. Then the Ritual Shield Talisman, again, whenever your HP is full, reduces damage taken by 30%. And this one is very easy to acquire as you get it at the front of the Lindell Coliseum. So if you're the kind of person who likes to swap talismans mid-fight, you can start out with both of these talismans equipped, get the buff, then whenever you take a hit, you can swap to something more optimal for the rest of the fight. The Assassin's Crimson Dagger makes it so your critical attacks restore approximately 10% of your HP. So on top of getting that very nice critical hit damage, you're gonna get some HP back, which is awesome. And the Crimson Dagger is found here at the Death-Touched Catacombs. Make it to the end, fight the Black Knife Assassin boss, and it's yours. Then the Assassin's Cerulean Dagger makes it so your critical attacks restore 15 FP, which is nothing crazy. For this one, head to the Black Knife Catacombs in Liurnia, and it drops from a secret Black Knife Assassin boss that is behind an illusory wall. Moving on though, these next 4 talismans that we're looking at have to do with successive attacks. The first one is the Winged Sword Insignia, and if you have this equipped, after you land 3 attacks, you will get a successive attack buff of 3%, 5%, then 10%. As you can see here, I'm gonna wail on this guy's leg. And I assume that you saw that red buff around me after that third swing. That is how you know that the buff has worked. And this is an absolutely fantastic talisman for early game. All you gotta do is reach Stillwater Cave in Liurnia and defeat the Cleanrot Knight boss. However, there are 2 improved versions of this talisman that you can actually stack together. This is the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, which obviously is the improved version of the Winged Sword Insignia, so instead of 3, 5, then 10% for successive attacks, it is 6, 8, then 13%. Then you have Millicent's Prosthesis, which is sort of in the middle of the last 2, with its 4, 6, then 11% buff to successive attacks, but it also adds 5 points of dexterity to your character. And I know damn well you recognize that name right there. If you want either of these, you're going to have to reach the end of Millicent's quest line, and spoiler alert, okay, I'm gonna say it now, this is a spoiler. If you kill Millicent at the end of her quest, you get the Prosthesis. But if you choose to assist her, you get the Rotted Sword Insignia. You need to get at least one of these, and if you can, go into NG Plus and get both. Because remember how I told you to keep the Shard of Alexander and the Godfrey icon in the back of your mind? Well, there is a specific synergy that you can do, and what I think is one of the most broken synergies in the entire game, and that is the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, the Millicent's Prosthesis, the Shard of Alexander, and the Godfrey icon in unison with the Moraeus Executioner's sword weapon art, or the Regalia if you like straight swords instead. So if you aren't familiar with this weapon art, it is a chargeable weapon art that hits multiple times, and it looks like this. So think about what I just said. It is a chargeable Ash of War that can hit multiple times in quick succession. I'm telling you that this build right here is so unbelievably busted. And if you don't believe me, well, go try it for yourself. The Godskin Swaddling Cloth is a talisman where successive attacks will restore 3% HP with an additional 30 flat HP. However, it takes 5 to 7 hits to activate instead of 3, and it depends on what weapon you're using. And all you gotta do to get it is go to Spirit Color Cave at the Freezing Lake. It does require Stone Sword keys to get into, don't ask me how I got back here. But at the end of this cave, there is a boss. Once you defeat that boss, you will get the talisman. The Kindred of Rot's Exaltation will raise your attack power by 20% for 20 seconds, after poison or rot procs in your vicinity, and it is dropped by the Kindred of Rot boss in Seathwater Cave, which is located on Mount Gelmir. So hey, if you are a Scarlet Rot enjoyer or a poison enjoyer, 1000% you should go get this talisman. And the same can be said for the Lord of Blood's Exaltation if you are a bleed enjoyer, where you will once again need to go to the Lindell Catacombs. Just like the Rot Exaltation, it is going to boost your attack power by 20% for 20 seconds whenever bleed happens, and it is a guaranteed drop from Esgar, the Priest of Blood, whom I believe is right behind this boss door. So clear out the catacombs, this'll open, then you can get it. Now this next talisman is normally a reward from Tanith, who is in Volcano Manor. She would be seated right here, except I killed her. But basically she has 3 assassination missions that you have to do, and on the 3rd one you will get the Taker's cameo as a reward. This restores 3% HP upon defeating enemies, so it's really good for mob dense areas. The Ancestral Spirit's Horn restores 3 FP upon defeating enemies, which is so terrible. You will get this from Ania at the Round Table Hold when you trade in the Remembrance of the Regal Ancestor. Yeah, this one right here. Your choice is this weird weapon or this shitty talisman. Now, everybody loves money, right? Who doesn't love the green? Who doesn't love that cheddar? Who doesn't love the stacks, the racks? In Elden Ring, runes are your money, and right now I'm broke. What I could do is head to the Abandoned Cave in Caelid, defeat the Cleanrot Duo boss fight, and get my hands on the Gold Scarab, which gives you 20% more rune acquisition. And trust me, whenever you are farming runes, it's definitely going to come in handy. Now, I'm sure most of us have farmed a certain mob over and over and over again, just to try to get a certain piece of gear or a certain weapon. I know I have spent hours farming stuff, and if you want to minimize your chances of sitting there for hours trying to farm for something, you are going to need to increase your discovery stat, which is exactly what the Silver Scarab does. It raises your item discovery by 75, which is actually a lot. And to get this talisman, you are going to have to return to the hidden path of the Haligtree and go down to these invisible walkways. Don't fall down like I did. This time, walk straight south, then west, break this wall, and in this chest, you will find the Silver Scarab. Crepus's Vial is a talisman that eliminates all sound made by the wearer during movement. So yeah, with this on, you are going to be a lot sneakier. It's going to be easy to maneuver through mobs without getting any attention. And this is yet another talisman that you get from Tanith after doing her 2nd assassination mission. And another super sneaky talisman that you can use in unison with Crepus's Vial is the Concealing Veil. So whenever you crouch and you are a decent distance away from enemies, you will turn invisible. And actually, this can kind of come in handy in invasions. If you're trying to keep your distance and kind of scout out an area to take on a fight, and you don't want the host or the cooperators to see you, just go ahead and throw the Concealing Veil on and you are golden. The Longtail Cat Talisman negates non-lethal fall damage, but it does not increase the threshold at which lethal damage is taken. So as long as you are not within lethal fall range, this talisman is going to help you out. And how you get it is, first you need to make it through the graveyard of Rhea Lucaria and go all the way until you come across the massive lift, which is right up here. And all you gotta do is take this lift all the way down, and near an Abductor Virgin you will find the talisman. Just imagine if this actually prevented you from taking fall damage from any height, you would be able to skip so many areas of the game. And the last 5 talismans that we have are kind of weird, but very, very basic. The Furled Fingers Trick Mirror makes the wearer look like a host, while the Host Trick Mirror will make the wearer look like a cooperator. So this is a great way to fool invaders if you're playing through the game with your friends. Disguise the host as a cooperator, disguise the cooperator as the host, and you're set. And both of these can be bought for 5,000 runes each from the Twin Maiden Husks at the Round Table Hold. Now, if you are a seasoned Tarnished and going into NG is not enough for you, the game has just become too easy, there are a couple talismans that you can throw on to make it harder. The first is Shabriri's Woe, which makes it so you constantly attract enemies. Like, enemies are going to aggro onto you from a further distance. You're not really going to be able to sneak past any enemies. And it is found in the Frenzied Flame village of Liurnia. Then Daedakar's Woe makes you take double damage. You take double damage. You take 100% more damage. That's it. And if you really, really want this talisman really badly, like you're some sort of masochist or something, you will receive it at the end of Raya's quest. You know, that snake that's posing as a woman? She always gave me the creeps. And now I guess all we have left is the 91st and final talisman of the video. And this is actually the only talisman that you lose when you die, which you might think, huh, that's kind of strange. Well, that's actually part of its whole effect. It's called the Sacrificial Twig. And basically, if you have this equipped and you die, you will not lose your runes. However, you will lose the Sacrificial Twig. So as you can see, I have 347 runes, and if I just jump off of this waterfall, then respawn, you will get this message, meaning I did not lose any of my 347 runes. And you can get so many of these in a playthrough. I'd say that the most reliable source for them is Patches after he sets up shop. But if you don't care about his quest at all, you can take him out, get his bell bearing, and then bring it to the Twin Maiden Husks at the Round Table Hold and buy the Sacrificial Twigs from them. And yeah, guys, that is officially it for the 91 talismans of Elden Ring. If I missed anything or got anything wrong, feel free to let me know down in the comments below, or you could maybe comment down below your favorite talisman. If you enjoyed the video or you learned something new, make sure to smash the like. And if you would like to see more content from me in the future, make sure that you click that subscribe and that noti bell. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your support. Love you guys. You're beautiful. You're dashing. You're stunning. Stay golden. And I'll see you in the next one.